the cloud. So, Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you.
I'm joined today by Kevin McCaffrey, who is the CEO of a company called Trident. Well, why am I explaining when you can explain better, Kevin? So do you want to give a few words about who you are, what you do, and particularly the Transformation Accelerator platform?
Sure. Yeah, we have a SaaS-based platform that's used for strategic planning, but specifically in the area of ecosystem modeling. So we have a wide range of customers that are using the product to understand and design the ecosystems, both for use by internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So it's all about the visualization of the ecosystem, and it's important to get that right at the start of many projects.
Yeah. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about this whole question of visualization. I was joking that actually it suddenly struck me, if somebody says to you, what does your ecosystem look like? How do you give them a single picture on a single slide or a single snapshot and have that snapshot so rich that people can say, well, that's interesting because there's this aspect and there's that aspect. But that's essentially one of the very simple things that your tool does, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, many organizations talk a lot about ecosystems, but actually can never, visualize what that actually means. And one of the key features of Transformation Accelerator is the ecosystem modeling capability, which allows you to build dynamic ecosystems in what we call a structured collaborative way, which means that you've got multiple people working on that, visualizing it and defining the interactions between the key stakeholders.
Yeah.
And then being able to filter that and analyze it and say, well, what if, or show me just the financial interactions or the products and services, and tying that into other aspects that are required around the business model or the go-to-market model or whatever else that they've got involved in that project.
Yeah, you mentioned dynamism there, and again, in having these conversations with you previously, I've begun to realize that designing and developing an ecosystem is an important but complex task. So if you can do it quickly, and then if you can do it in a dynamic way, which means you can say, well, actually, now we've designed it, we realize that that's perhaps not the best design. So let's try this, so let's try that, or let's change this range of key stakeholders, or let's change the value exchange model in this area or that area. That is incredibly important because you don't want to build it with all that effort, put it into the field, put it into play, as it were, and then discover all this stuff that you could have discovered by modeling it non-live, as it were.
Absolutely. And again, it kind of comes back to that term of structured collaboration, in that rather than sending a PowerPoint with some circles and lines around to people and getting feedback, if you're able to do that in a collaborative online way as part of a Zoom or a Teams call, where you've got multiple people collaborating, you've got two things really happening that are really, really important. You've got a method of visualization and collaboration between the members that they can all see at the same time. But more importantly, you also get an implicit buy-in from people as they're working on it, and it's raising issues and questions that they hadn't thought of. And that actually, what we found is that by using that concept of visualization and modeling through our platform, people, projects and clients can design their ecosystem about 60% quicker, and that actually results in getting buy-in from the stakeholders up to 30-40% quicker. So you're able to save time and money and get on the same page a lot sooner.
Well, as I said to you in one of our previous conversations, as a consultant who is beginning to work more and more in the ecosystem space, I can see the very practical advantage straight away, because if a client says to me, we're building an ecosystem, we've got 3 or 4 different types of partners, can you help us think through all the issues? I can say yes, and I can say, well, we need to get everybody together and start talking about this. But the very physical act of getting all those people together at the same time for a conversation is a 4 or 6 week job. You've just lost 4 or 6 weeks. Whereas if you can say, well, yeah, we can do that, but let's do it online. Let's start the design process by going to the lead client, whoever that is, and say, well, what did you have in mind for this ecosystem? They put their input in, then you go to the next partner, then you go to the next partner. You can have it done in 2 or 3 weeks. It's got to be a massive advantage in speed there, hasn't there?
Absolutely. And you know, we had a project towards the end of last year where we had there were like 6 companies involved, 40 people across 8 different time zones, and they needed to create an ecosystem around
Yeah,
the new marketplace, and
yeah,
everybody had different roles. Now, just to try and have one call with all of the people was impossible.
yeah.
So by being able to use an online, you know, SaaS platform where they could actually go and add comments and say, hey, Mike, what do you think about that? So that people can follow up and have that same. And the important thing is you've got a dynamic single source of the truth for everybody there for them to work with. And that whole, as I said before, the concept or the act, I should say, of creating the ecosystem is actually so important. Yeah, you end up with a lovely picture of the ecosystem that you can filter, and then you can start modeling into different scenarios. But the actual implicit buy-in that you get from the team members who participate is invaluable.
Well, if we're not careful, we're going to do the whole demo that we have in mind on this call. So just to remind people, we're going to do a demo and a discussion of this so we can bring some of this alive. It's a meeting on LinkedIn, so you can find it on LinkedIn, and it's also advertised in the group called Best Practices in Partner Ecosystems. So I shall look forward to asking you even more questions then, and hopefully we'll get a few more people interested and involved and put their thoughts in.
Thanks, Mike. Look forward to it.
Cheers, Kevin. Thank you.
Bye.